cursed be the ground for our sake. Both thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for us. For out of the ground we were taken for the dust that we are, and to the dust we shall return. From the Dust podcast features people who have had life-changing experiences. Here they share their stories and testimonials about how God can move and change a person's life. Welcome to the From the Dust podcast. Take a listen. Open your hearts and ears. Here's your host, James Science.
Hello. Welcome back to From the Dust podcast. I'm your host, James Science. Whatever you are and whatever you do, I hope you are highly favored and highly blessed. If you have a story or testimony you would like to share, go ahead and hit me up From the Dust podcast at outlook.com. That's From the Dust podcast at outlook.com. Stories need to be told. Voices need to be heard. Well, today, I'm pumped. I have a special guest that I listen to, on my podcast. This is where I was, where the idea and the dream came to me, listening to people such as him. He's an author and hip-hop artist, a speaker, and we're just going to go ahead and bring him in. He goes by the name of the TruthSeekah. What's up, TruthSeekah? How are you?
Hey, brother. I'm blessed, man. How are you? Thanks for having me.
And I'm blessed. It's good to have you, bro. I've been excited about this, bro. I listened to your podcast, and you gave me a lot of inspiration and a lot of good knowledge in the word, bro, and a lot of good knowledge in life.
That's what's up, man. Thank you for the feedback. It means the world.
Yeah, and so let's get into it. I know about hearing about your story, some of the things you were involved in, what you came out of. Let's talk about where you grew up.
Yeah. I was born in Houma, Louisiana, and I grew up in those areas, a bunch of little cities, moved around a lot as a kid. And my dad left at an early age. So kind of grew up, without that male role model, that male father figure in my life. And I think that like a chameleon, like a lot of young boys are, they look for somebody, an older person that they can identify with. And for me, I think it was a lot of hip hop music, man. Falling in love with the rappers, or Tupac and Master P, and a lot of the down south stuff that I was listening to. And I just wanted to emulate that culture. And people want to belong, man. And so like I was listening to that music, and I wanted to be a part of that world, hip hop world, and even the ghetto world and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Just the intrigue and the mystique of it. So my brother was a drug dealer, and he, as far as physically, he became that role model, you know what I'm saying, of somebody physically that I didn't have. Tupac physically had his music, but my brother was like the older example of the person who was what you heard in those rap songs, cooking dope and selling dope and huge parties and stuff like that. So got involved with the gang lifestyle and that kind of stuff, and following in the footsteps of my brother. And he eventually got into a lot of trouble, man, in and out of prison and getting caught with that stuff. And I got to see that lifestyle comes with the price, you know what I'm saying? So I never got addicted to anything hard or do anything like that, but I was partying and as a teenager and smoking weed and drinking every day, using pills when I could get some, and that kind of thing. And ended up getting involved in the occult. I was always into the supernatural and all of that kind of stuff. And I think it stemmed from having a supernatural encounter when I was a little kid. Woke up in the middle of the night with these two beings laying on my chest, pinning me down to the bed. And it scared the mess out of me. I think I was 4 years old or something like that. But it birthed something within me to keep asking questions and stuff like that about the other side, about what happened, and knowing that there was more to life, even at an early age. So drawn to like horror movies and supernatural thrillers and that kind of stuff. And led me down a road of just asking questions and finding books about the supernatural and about witchcraft and Satanism and stuff like that as a teenager, just trying to find that identity in all of these other things, man. And so it led me down a really dark path, dark road, got really deep into the occult, got deep into witchcraft and making pacts with demons and doing meditations and trances, trying to open up my mind for demonic entities to come and say hello. And I pretty much had all of these books. I probably had 40 books, and I did rituals and spells out of all of them, like one out of each book, seeing which one would work. Like if it was Wicca and it didn't work, then it was Satanism, it didn't work. Then it was angel magic, it didn't work. Like did all these rituals until one day they all worked at the same time.
It
And
comes
I felt
together.
like a
Huh?
portal had opened up and all of these entities are coming through trying to talk to me, but I couldn't understand them. It was scary, pulling me in and out of trances during the day, got really bad off, and called out for the Lord. I'd been saved a few years before. I got saved in '98. Had a beautiful encounter and baptism of the Holy Spirit when I asked Him to come into my life. But did that only for a couple months, and then I fell away and got even deeper into witchcraft. So about 2000, all of this came to a head where I got really sick in my body and started going mad in my mind, and called out for that relationship that I had with Christ a couple years prior, and asked Him to come back into my life, and renounced all that stuff, threw everything away, all the witchcraft and all the demonic stuff. And he rededicated my life to the Lord in September 7th of 2000, man. So 20 years ago.
Wow, that's a long time in serving Christ. And what were some of your experiences in the occult and witchcraft? Like your mental being and your well-being in your mind frame. Because I know when you serve God, and then when you're in the world, your mind and your body are in a totally, completely different realm.
Yeah, it's hard to put yourself back in those places because there's people still there. I think it's good. I think it's healthy to remember, people being bugged out, man. It's kind of like being on drugs. There's people who are bugged out on drugs and they're in a different world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They don't see things. They don't respond to pressure the same way that you do. They don't interpret conversations the way that like people, their emotions are jacked up, they're being on drugs. And so for me, being in the occult and witchcraft and opening up my mind to spirits was very similar as being on hard drugs. I was in another world. I was walking in two worlds, and it was scary though, man. It was being pulled in and out of trances at will. Like, I'd be sitting on the couch watching TV, and these shadows would run across the past the TV, or they'd be in a corner, and me and my girlfriend would both see them, and then we look and they're gone. And but they would pull me in these trances, and my skin would turn pale, and I'd get really cold, and I'd start shaking, and my heart would start racing, and I would be pulled into this trance, and I would see these spirits and like ghosts and colors and all of these stuff, and they're all speaking, but they're like speaking foreign languages, trying to all speak at the same time. And it was just like, I've had to fight to come back, and I came back, and I'm just crying like, what the heck, man? And so stuff like that. Remember I stole, I have a story where I stole a video game from a warlock, and they found out that I stole from them, and they went and did a spell on me because I had stole belongings from them. So they had a protection spell that a spirit would go back and get the belongings and bring it back. Stole a video game. We're at a party hanging out, and then my stuff that I stole was across the street. Somebody comes walking in the room of this big party with all these witches and warlocks and people who are in gang activity, insane gangster disciples and that kind of stuff. They brought the video game in and handed it to the warlock, and I'm sitting across from them, and I look at them and I'm like, uh-oh, because I think we're fixing to get tied up. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get jumped. So my cousin was with me. I looked at him and said, bro, we got to go. And he's like, why? There's a bunch of people, a bunch of girls here. They're about to start smoking weed and drinking. I said, no, we got to go. We finna get jumped. Like, it's over. And so we get up and walk outside, and I told him, and all those witches had walked to the back of the house. And when they did, we got up and walked out the door. And we asked this guy for a ride. He gave us a ride down the street. We're trying to find somewhere to stay for the night, and we're going to go stay in my girlfriend's tree house. So he drops us off at the end of the road, and we're going to make a run for it so her parents can't see us, try to sneak to her treehouse. And we're hanging out for about 45 minutes because there's this light in the yard that's just kind of hovering, and that light kind of had us fixated. I thought it was her dad with a flashlight, but the way it was moving, and it wasn't. And then the sun started to go down. We walk around the edge of the bushes by this open field, and we're about to make a run for it to the treehouse. And out of nowhere, this big entity appeared. It was about, the best way I can describe it, it looked like an 8-foot tall camel, appeared out of nowhere, ran past me and my cousin, knocked us both down, and screamed and vanished out of nowhere. It was like an 8-foot tall, made out of the blackest of night. Looked like a camel, some kind of camel spirit. And after that, man, my health started to go down, and that's when I, started doing. I got even deeper into the witchcraft though, because you think that something like that would scare you away.
Right.
But it's like, no, like I can get good enough and be able to do that too. Like I can summon the
Was that
entity
something
to
that
go. harm
that
somebody.
dragged you to it because you seen it and then you wanted more of that?
Oh, it was powers. Hey, that's real.
Wow.
Yeah, it's real. All this stuff is real. I just got to get better. I just got to get good enough. And so me trying to get better and trying to get good enough, you have to pay for that stuff. Like that's not free.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And what I found out they charge is a piece of your psyche. They want to live in your brain. So that's when you see these people bugged out. They got entities speaking to them and that want to exist on this side of eternity, and they need a host. They need a vessel. So it's somebody who comes into agreement with these types of entities, whether it is through witchcraft, whether it is through drug use and drug abuse, all of this kind of stuff. These entities get control of an individual, and they're here on this side of eternity now using this host. And now they have an influence in the world because they used to in the old world. And now that they're here, they have to abuse people and possess people and those kind of things.
Man, that's a you weren't saved then, were you? You weren't serving God or didn't know Jesus then?
No. Well, I mean, so I got born again in 98 and I had a beautiful out of this world encounter. He came into my life. I got filled with the baptism of the Spirit, but it only lasted a couple months because I was in a new place. All I knew was church people. They're bringing me to church and we're just worshiping the Lord and going to prayer meetings. But then we started going back to school. The school year started in this new town that I was in. And as soon as school started, I got with the wrong crowd. So I got born again, but as far as like the Christian experience, it only lasted a couple months until I got even deeper for about 2 years into deeper and deeper and deeper into like Satanism and witchcraft and those kind of things. And that's when it was like hit rock bottom, you know?
Also, like, I can imagine. I tell people when I speak to certain people, some people believe only in God. They don't believe in the darker side. But there is a good and there is a bad. There is a dark and good versus evil. Do you believe that the evil at that time was affecting you more because you served God at one point and now they're just attacking you more?
Yep. I think so, man. I think they know when people have a calling on their life, you know. The beautiful thing though is now like once like it's 20 years ago, you know what I'm saying? So now I'm more mature, I'm older, like I'm able to look back at it, you know, and it seems like another lifetime. It was 20 years, you know, and I'm thankful that stuff happened, you know what I'm saying? And so there's this weird gratitude there now that I'm thankful that the Lord allowed me to go through that, you know, because he had a calling for me. He had a path for me that it birthed a natural empathy in me to reach out to those people who are still in that now. And they're in a place of confusion. They don't know how to get out of it. You know what I'm saying? I knew how to get out of it. And so I knew that I can call upon the Lord and he would deliver me. And he did. Now it was a long road out trying to get my mind renewed and casting off the old man. There was a bunch of breakthrough that came immediately, but walking it out was a lot of stuff I had to deal with. So, the Lord just kind of, you know, sent me back out there to those people, you know, with my podcast and with my music and that kind of stuff. I just put myself out there in the midst of those people who are into that stuff. And I try to approach a lot of that stuff from a biblical basis, not to bash them or to rebuke them or whatever, just to have a conversation with these people and hear their stories. And hopefully that in the midst of that, they see that my story is similar. And if those who are looking for power, those who are looking for something real on the other side, I found it, and it's in the person of Jesus Christ. The ultimate power is in him, man, and it's he'll blow your mind and take you deeper than any demon or lesser power or the devil or any kind of witchcraft book can take you. Is found through Christ.
Now, listening to your podcast, you were I know that you can have a relationship with God, but is there a deeper relationship with God and Jesus that you can have that's from the norm?
Heck yeah, man. That's the beautiful thing. Like, nobody can put a cap on that. And really the Lord can take you and will take you as far as your imagination will allow you, as far as your faith will allow you. Let's say that. But your faith works off of your imagination and your belief system. Like you have to expand your faith and what you believe that God can do. The interesting thing you said that a lot of people um, believe that the good exists or whatever, and then they don't really believe in the negative or the demons or they're even real or whatever. There's a lot of people in the church who, when it comes to the angelic realms, there'll be people who will love to tell stories like mine, and they have a lot of them, and they give glory to the devil in a sense of like what interactions they've had with demons and the devil and darkness and drugs and that kind of stuff. But when it comes to the angelic and the beautiful encounters with God, like sometimes they put a cap on that. Oh yeah, demons are real, but angels, they don't really. You're not going to see angels. They're not really, unaware or whatever. But like the angelic realm is more real than the demonic, man. Then they have more power. So in a believer's life, man, I really believe that as deep as you want to go in the Lord, he's willing to meet you there and share his secrets with you, to share his heart with you, and to take you on this journey beyond your wildest dreams. I don't think that there's anybody who has a limit or a cap on it. Like, I believe that God has things in his heart that he hasn't shared with anybody ever, that if you'll seek him in the secret place, he'll show things to you and speak to you, things about yourself, about your life, about the universe, whatever it is that your heart's desire. As long as you delight yourself in him, he'll give you the desires of your heart, man. And so that's been a beautiful experience and the greatest journey ever,
Now, when I find it interesting the topics you talk about. You're real. That's why sometimes I can relate to what you talk about. You're not afraid to talk about certain realms, certain subjects, and
Mhm.
I want to know the difference, my listeners, the difference between religion and spirituality, because those are totally different topics. Am I right?
Yeah, man. I think in the scriptures it talks about, it calls believers, it says it calls them carnal Christians. That there's a certain sect of people, they're just carnal, like they're Christians by religion. You know what I'm saying? They're Christians by agreement. They're Christians because they go to church or they have put their faith in Christ, but it stops there. The beautiful thing is about walking in the spirit. So I think that walking in the spirit ties into spirituality. And as far as our spiritual life and our spiritual practice, I think that Christianity or Christians should be the most spiritual people on the planet. When I read the Bible and I read about Jesus and I read not just him, because I say, well, that was just him. We look at Paul, Peter, the disciples, the prophets, the patriarchs, and the type of life that they lived, and they're interacting with angels and demons, and angels would wake them up in the middle of the night and give them dreams and visions about what they're supposed to do the next day. Like, there's a certain type of way that you have to live. You have to walk in the spirit, and in that comes all of this other spiritual practice. And it's through meditation. It's through being mindful, communing with the Father daily, asking him, "What should we do today, Lord? What do you want to do?" Like, really consulting the Father. And so, in that is the greatest mystery, and all of that stuff is revealed through a mystical relationship with Jesus. And so it opens up the door for the right kind of spirituality, the clean kind of spirituality, exactly what I was seeking when I was into the demonic realms and stuff. I didn't know that that stuff was a counterfeit of what God really had for us. And so that's just been my heart, to really do it the right way, because there is a wrong way, right? And so to kind of make that contrast there, and a lot of Christians will, just give it all to the devil. You know what I'm saying? All of the subjects that I talk about, even peer into, they go, "Oh, it's all the devil. It's all you just," but it's for Christians, man. They took that from us. Meditation, spirituality, prayer, fasting, man, speaking in tongues, like, you name it, man. I want it all.
Now, when you say meditation and prayer, is that totally different? How does that work?
There's a good quote that I've heard, and I like to regurgitate it. They say, prayer is when you speak to God. Meditation is where God speaks to you. So it's in this place of mindfulness, this place of communion with the Lord. There's some scriptures that, for me, are kind of like a blueprint when I go in and have quiet time with the Lord. There's talk about, Matthew 6 and 7, like when you go in to pray, shut the door behind you and lock the door, go into your prayer closet and commune with the Father. And so, um, going in there says to seek God in the silence, right? Peace, be still and know that I am God. And so to go into these places and to clear out our mind and give God our utmost attention. And so for some reason, from the Christian perspective, that's a scary thing to do, to clear out your mind. There's a lot of weird theology out there that says if you clear out your mind, demons come and inhabit those clear places, which is totally not scriptural. When you hang out with somebody, say in this interview, I think it's important that I not have anything else on my mind right now, that I give you my full attention, to be present, to answer your questions, for us to connect and build on another level. This is the first time we're really getting to talk and build. And so for me to be thinking about other stuff that I got going on, what I'm going to eat tonight, what am I going to cook, things coming up tomorrow or next week, I'm not giving you my full attention. So I really think that going into the presence of God should be like that as well. There's a couple of different things. Sometimes we go into the presence of God because we have so much on us and we can't clear our mind. So we're like, hey, Lord, take it. I need you right now. I got so much going on. And then so we kind of sit in that and bask in that. But there's other times it's like we get in to his presence and we're like, other things are coming up and I just get it out the way. I'm trying to pray. I'm trying to just hang out with him. But then I'm thinking about bills that I got to pay next month. I'm thinking about how does a washing machine work? Just weird stuff. Like, hold on, I need to give them my utmost attention. And so I found out that when you do that, man, it's always been powerful. It's like this mindful thing to say, like, I want you more. Well, what about the car? You got to fix the car. Okay, we'll do that later. What about washing the dishes? We'll do that later. God, I want you more right now. I'm going to devote this time to you. So clearing out my mind and devoting it to him, meditating upon the Lord is what you're doing in the scriptures. And so spending time in his presence, maybe have some worship music on. It's a beautiful encounter, man. I think that's where a lot of things and dreams and visions are birthed in that secret place. And so it's tied into that. I mean, even in praise and worship at churches and stuff like that, we'll close our eyes and lift our hands for 45 minutes. People are seeing dreams and visions and they're feeling their burdens lifted. They feel like they're not even there anymore. I remember just doing that for like an hour, singing worship songs. And I don't care what's going on around me. I'm not there. I'm in heaven, man. Like I'm sitting at the feet of Jesus, even though I'm in a room of 400 people. You know what I'm saying? So that's the power of tapping in through what we would call meditation and just spending time with the Lord. So
makes sense. That's where I find my biggest breakthroughs is not just through the prayer, but through the meditations. When I feel like people say, well, you meditate, is that of God? Well, it's like having a conversation with God. When I'm open and I let everything go, that's where he speaks to me. Like I was having a hard time just trying to find my way in life, what I was going to do. And this is where this podcast came through. And I was just at a hard time in my life with God. What do I do? And it wasn't a prayer. It was a conversation. And I hear him where he says, well, you need to change your lifestyle. You need to change your attitude. You need to change. I look at how you see people and how you treat people. And I tell people, it's good to meditate. It's not that you're doing something off of what the Bible says. It's just you open your hearts and ears, and that's when God speaks to you.
Mm-hmm. Like I said again about listening, because just like many relationships, whether it's a husband and wife, or you have those friends who call you, you answer the phone and they talk for 5 minutes and hey, I gotta go. Somebody else is calling, and they hang up. That person just talked for 5 minutes and you just sat there, and then they're gone. Same way with our prayer life with God. It's like we go into his presence and we're asking for stuff. We're petitioning. We're praying for family members and praying, hey, can you come through and help me with this bill, Lord? Like, all of these kind of things, which is part of it, but we don't sit to listen. And that's one of the biggest things is being quiet, being still, waiting upon the Lord. That's the part of waiting. So we can pray, we can get in his presence, but we need to wait on him and just listen, because he'll answer. Obviously, it may not be all there. He's going to just say, hey, this is what you need to do. A lot of inspiration comes there, but once you start it there, when you leave out and go about your business and do your day, what you start in the secret, God rewards you openly. He'll begin to open up doors and opportunities and speak to you through everything around you and your perception. And so he speaks through everything. But it's the fact that can we see him and can we hear him speaking through the stuff? So where God starts in the secret place, man, I found that he finishes out in the open. But I feel like you go there to start it, or you go there to go deeper with his heart and see what he's saying. And, asking for direction, getting healing. The thing about communing with the Lord is not just about you need to change your personality. You need to quit doing this. You need to quit doing that. He does that. But he also tells you how to do it. He tells you through his word, and he tells you through his spirit, letting you know, look, you need to forgive them. You need to, supernatural forgiveness. I know you have a right to be offended, but don't. I'm going to reward you. You're gonna see, and you find out that every time you follow that intuition, the voice of the Holy Spirit that works with your conscience, he always works it out for your good. Always.
Sure does. Now let's talk about some of the things you like your ministries, because I know you have a lot going on. You're a writer. You work with a lot of people. You speak with a lot of people. You want to talk about some of your ministries?
Yeah, man. So I got the podcast. I do that. And so that is I talk to everybody. I just want to hear their story and see where what it means to me. I feel like we all have a piece of the puzzle, even for non-believers, you know what I'm saying? Just talking to them, hearing their story, because you find out that's not what a lot of Christians didn't do. They won't talk to you about your beliefs. Like, a lot of Christians are scared of unbelievers, man.
Yeah, they are.
They're scared of, and maybe I was too, scared of witches, or scared of the homosexual, or whatever it is. Like, anybody that's different than them, we demonize what we don't understand. And so you find that a lot in churches. And I was there at one point. And so on my podcast, I welcome people from all walks of life, and we talk about spiritual issues. I try to relate everything back to spirituality, whether it's music or an author or a pastor or whoever. So that's what I do with that. And it's really puts me in front of, it's not a Christian podcast. So it's a TruthSeekah podcast. I can talk to anybody. So if it's a pastor or a Mormon, or whoever, man, I don't care. I want to hear your story. And so I do that, and it's opened up the door for me to be in front of people who would not come to church, or who would not listen to a Christian podcast. Most Christian podcasts are for Christians.
Yeah.
And good, but these are for people who are searching, man. They're looking up stuff on aliens. They're looking up stuff on meditation, and hopefully that I'm in the midst of that, and you'll land on my podcast, which countless amounts of people have done. They've been, and I'll get the messages, man, I was looking up, and I was wanting to look up about the Anunnaki or something crazy conspiracy stuff. And then I found your show, and then I wanted to get my relationship back right with God. I wanted to know that I was still loved, even though I'm different, or even though I think outside the box. So that's the podcast. And that's the biggest thing. I'm an author and a hip hop artist, and all of that stuff just kind of articulates my story. Kind of like everything that we've been talking about so far on this interview is like articulated through music, articulated through the podcast, articulated through my book. I do have guided meditations that I've done, and where and I lead and stuff like that. So I do one-on-one sessions with people, but I feel like all of it is about healing. All of it is about love and grace, and trying to get the person in a relationship with Christ, or an encounter with Christ. Not that it's not really big on doctrine. Like, we talk about doctrines and beliefs and stuff like that, but people can talk you out of your doctrine. I've been talked out of so many doctrines, and what I believe and what's true and this and that and this and that, but I've never been talked out of my encounters. When I've come face to face with the living God, nobody can take that away from me. You know what I'm saying? My story is my story. So I really do believe in encounters. Even when Jesus met people, they heard his stories, and they heard renown. And who do you say I am? Well, some say you're this, others say you're that. But who do you say I am? So when you come face to face with him in his presence, man, there's no denying who he really is. And so it's my goal to get believers and non-believers in that place of sitting in silence, meditating upon the Lord and having an encounter with him. Some for the first time, some reiterating something they've left with their youth. You know what I'm saying? It's so awesome.
That's what I try to convey to people. Just to have an encounter, experience God, experience him, just to see what he can do and what he's able to do. Because people say, I'm not a church person, or I'm not religious. I get it. There's so much going on in the world. You don't know what to believe. Who to believe. Like, sometimes I have struggles with my own boy. Like, he knows I grew up in church, and he seen me grow up in church, but yeah, he still has to struggle. Why does these things happen to good people? Why is God, if there's a God, why does God allow this to happen? I prayed to people, open your heart. God has a way of doing things because how the world is, how man is. If they would follow the Bible and follow, they would see why, they would understand why. I just tell people, the goal is, give your life to Christ, serve Christ, but at least have that encounter so that seed is planted, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Where can the listeners and the viewers find some of your stuff?
I'm on every platform pretty much, YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. So whatever social media you use there, you can find me there. But all my stuff is at TruthSeekah.com, Truth, SEEKAH.com. My blogs, my book, my podcast, my music, everything's at that hub, TruthSeekah.com.
Yeah, I get a lot of insight from you, man. I think I found you from listening to Sam Tripoli. That's the thing where I found the link. You know, you search and it gives you all the different topics. So when I found you, I was like, man, this guy, he's legit. He's a believer, but he's not afraid to talk to this person. He's not afraid to mention this, you know, because you know I stray sometimes into the into the Bigfoot, you know, the aliens. Does that exist? But you're not afraid to talk about that because a lot of people are, you know, they won't mix the genres, and that's why I think you'll
Yeah.
reach a lot of people, you know, through being so open and open minded and be able to talk
Yeah.
to a lot of people.
Yeah, man. It really does work. Those people who are more closed-minded, they don't really, they can't see how you can talk about this one day and then that one day, because we're so used to putting people in boxes and saying, well, Christians can't talk about that, or Christians can't look into this. And I'm just like, want to bet?
Right.
You know, people are interested. Like, the thing is, when it comes to spirituality and all that kind of stuff, like, I had questions in church and the pastors and teachers could not answer my questions, or they would not. So that led me to go to Google, and, you know, they had I guess the witches would gladly talk to me about aliens. They would gladly talk to me about meditations, you know, and lead me down some crazy road that, you know, could harm me. So for those believers and those young people who have questions about aliens and UFOs, hopefully you find a believer who will talk to you about it, and who's done research, and not even just demonizing everything too. So there are those ministries who will talk to you, but everything's demonic. Everything outside of what we believe or outside of the Bible or realm of thinking is demonic. They demonize what they don't understand. So for me, it's just like, well, if it's demons, it's demons. But let's take a closer look at it, man, and talk and get more people's opinions. We need to talk to more people, you know, before we can make an assessment about what's going on. So that's my job. You know, it's really to be that voice that I needed when I was a young man. When I was a young man in the church, having supernatural encounters, and the Lord would wake me up with dreams and visions about the church and where we were headed as a church. And I would take it to the pastors, and they would like, nope, this isn't of God. We'll rebuke it. God doesn't speak through you. I was like, this is weird, because it would plague me, like, and it would come out, it would happen. Months later, the dream would happen verbatim, you know, and I had to find people who would listen to me and who would help me interpret these dreams and signs and symbols, who believed in it, that God still speaks through that stuff. And man, my life hasn't been the same since. It's been amazing.
I believe there's a lot because I've experienced some things where I can't explain like what the heck was that or what voice was that, like, you know. So and there's a lot of things that pastors and churches don't talk about. Like when I'm growing up in church and going to different churches, I never heard about the book of Enoch or the Nephilim. Why do you think they don't talk about that kind of stuff? Because it's biblical and it's obviously proven fact. You know, why are they
Yeah.
so afraid to talk about that kind of stuff? You think?
Well, I will say they're talking about it more now, you know, because they're getting left behind if they don't.
Right.
Because a lot of people are asking questions and they're finding New Agers talking about the Book of Enoch. So we got to answer these questions. And so why they wouldn't, I think, because it leads into more questions that they weren't really trained on, harder questions that the Christians kind of shy away from. And that's what my podcast is, to ask the harder questions, you know? So they may not have the answers. And so that's one thing you'll find too, is that like a lot of Christians or pastors or leaders or any teacher, it's hard for them to say, I don't know. That shows a sign of true humility when you find a teacher or a pastor say, look, man, I don't know, versus just giving you what they were taught or what they like. They can give you your opinion, but to say that they don't know, it shows true humility. And at the end of the day, there's a lot that we don't know, you know, and there's still a lot left to explore for us. But Enoch, because it opens up doors to more questions and more theories, and then other books that were taken out of the Bible, which I think Enoch was the first one for me, maybe. And then I got into the Apocrypha, which was 14 other books that were taken out. It was in the 1611. The original King James had 14 more books that were taken out. They're still in, like, the Ethiopian Bible and the Catholic Bible. The Catholics even use these same 14 books, but for some reason the Protestant Christians took these books out because they have some strange information in them, and maybe some extra information and things like that. So yeah, I think they just stray away from hard questions and they weren't taught. So, but
I
I think
always
there's some key stuff in there, though, man, for people who want to understand the spirit world. If you really want to, you cannot fully understand the Bible without the Book of Enoch. I know it's a huge statement, but I believe it. There's some keys in there that explain stuff in the New Testament that you're going to read that's not going to make sense to you unless you know about things that was going on in Enoch, and it changes the worldview of reading the Bible and what was going on and who they were at war with. And not just, I mean, there's a bunch more, man. Like the Testament of Solomon was a big one. Jesus starts like talking about spirits and Beelzebub and things like that. That was like the prince of demons. We were told that Beelzebub was Satan, but Beelzebub is not Satan. That's another spirit that was mentioned of in the Testament of Solomon, that Solomon mentioned. That was a book that was referenced during those times. And so there's a lot to it. There's a lot in the Bible, right? You can give your life over just to the Bible and never fully understand it, and there's mystery, but there is grace to look into some of these other books. And if it's true, at the end of the day, truth is going to stand for itself, and it'll pan out.
right. I always give my guests, where we are, an opportunity to say what they want to say. If you can give, isn't the believer, the lost, the person that's in between, the person that just believes in the way out, craziness, what kind of inspiration, or what can you tell them to better their lives, or just to do better in the work of God, or their lives? Is it, whether it's just not a believer, what can they do to bring themselves to a better place?
Yeah, I think, understanding that there is a God, there is a higher power that loves you, that it is the creative force that knitted and stitched and holds this whole existence together. Everything that's going on, he knows about it. He loves you. He wants a relationship with you. We found that through the person of Jesus Christ. And it's changed our lives. And so knowing that you get to co-create with God, the one who like holds the blueprint to all of this stuff, and to be able to create with him and to be able to talk to him about your future, about what you're going through right now, like he's a friend that sticks with you closer than a brother. That's one thing. When I gave my heart to God, it was like I never felt alone again. I was alone and depressed a lot of my childhood, and left to my imagination. But when I got born again, man, I never felt alone again. Just sitting in a room by myself, I was never alone. He was always with me, wanting to hang out, wanting to talk. And so, I mean, I just encourage that, just to take it. And if you don't know God in that way and you're a believer, take it to the next level. Say hello. Ask him to reveal himself deeper to you. Again, he'll take it. He would love to take your relationship with you as far as you want to go. Nothing shall by any means be impossible to you. And so nobody holds a cap on what that nothing is. And so believe God at his word, man. Let him blow your mind and grow in your relationship with that, for sure.
That's some good insight, man. I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man, man. You got your podcast going, you got your book going, and you're always doing things, bro. You're on the move, man. You're on the move.
Hey,
I
thanks,
appreciate
man.
this, bro, and I appreciate all inspiration, bro, because this is where this came out of, bro. Was actually listening to yours,
Hey, I share in that fruit. I'm a firm believer, bro. Like that I share in that. So I feel like everybody that you touch, I'm gonna share in that harvest. You know what I'm saying? Because of what I've done, I feel like giving up all the time. But it's like, nah, man, you got to stick with it. You're inspiring people. So I really feel like it's like I don't want to say a pyramid scheme, but you pay it forward. Like everybody that you touch, and then they go out and touch another one, and they touch another one. Dude, like that's a spiritual experience all in and of itself.
Yes, it is.
To sit back and think, how far does that go? Now it goes with your wickedness too. When you were in sin, how much of an influence and how much wickedness you done on the earth, right? But now that we're conscious of it, that we can consciously make an effort to do good and to preach truth and change people's lives. And when I think about that, man, and I'm not even like really even that big, but I know I've impacted a lot of people already. Um, Trying to trace that back out of, and we're just going on you. We're not going on the other 17 that I know of right under me, or the other 100, you know what I'm saying, that you can keep tracing and keep tracing some, what is it, some 30, 60, 100 fold or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? It keeps going and going and going and paying it forward. And I think we share in the benefits of that. I think that we'll get to see that in heaven. You know, I think that the Lord will illuminate it for us and show us that grid, how all things are connected, you know. And so to be it, man, that, for me, that's just, it's a powerful thing to do. You know what I'm saying? To just sit back and be like, man, I know because I get these messages all the time, you know, and it's easy to take it for granted, but you know, we fight depression. We're human, you know what I'm saying? But to really understand how much influence that we have, and knowing that when you need something, like, it's there. Like, God knows. He knows that He's got us doing this for a reason. We're making impact on nations, and discipling the nations, and we don't even know it, just through the internet and through podcasts and through music and whatever, you know, just being an example, and how much of an impact that has. And these are just the people who let you know. Most people don't write you a message just say, hey man, that was a good one. Like, I'm going to start my podcast now, and or whatever. Most people, they just kind of take it in, and man, I got people who come out of, like, you know, they left their dead end jobs, and now they're like doing jobs that fulfill them and give them purpose in life, and they're stepping into their destiny because they were listening to the podcast, and they're just hearing this encouragement. Look, man, just step out, leave that job, whatever it is that you got to do to step into the fullness of God. So I feel like when I see that, even though they don't come back and give me credit, and they don't have to, you know, God keeps a number and a tally and a record of what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, it'd be prideful for me to say, hey, I want you to say that I did that, right? But thanks for letting me know, because you did. But I know. You know what I'm saying? The scripture says that to let your light shine before all men, so that they can see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. And it's contagious, man. Truth is contagious. Freedom is contagious. Love is contagious, man. And so as long as we're walking in that, in everything that we do, we're gonna change the world.
I noticed that because I've recently just started putting a word of the day on my Instagram, my Facebook, and if I'm late, or I don't forget, because I've been kind of like busy stuff. Now, if I'm late, or if I happen not to do it, I get messages. What happened? Where's it at? Word of the day? Or if I forget to put it on public, hey, share, because people are sharing, and I'm getting it's a little feedback. But I'm not here. I can tell. I say it all the time on here. I'm not here to get hundreds or thousands of subscribers or listeners. I just want that one person to hear and be touched by it. And that's what's going on. So what if I get a little message? Oh, your testimony, or this speaker spoke to me, or your word spoke to me, or let me share it. Man, my heart is fulfilled.
That's what it is, man. I mean, that's always been my prayer. Just starting out doing concerts early on, you know, it was like I just love doing it, and it's like, Lord, I'm a perform for these 2 people like it was 2,000 people, like when we would go do concerts. And I think the Lord held me to that word, you know what I'm saying, for so long. But I've been there. Like, it's kind of weird for me. So with my podcast, I've been at the years ago, because I've been at this for a long time, starting early days of YouTube, of I'd put out a podcast and they would all go to 50, 70,000, 80,000 views, like every episode, even if they were whack. It was just because I had good art and a good title that caught people. Now you're fighting the algorithms and all the other stuff. But now I'll do a similar show, and it may get on YouTube anyway. It may get, 500 views, 300 views. I get some with 300 views, good quality content, 300 views. And a part of me would try to like look at other people getting those thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even like I used to get 70,000. And it's like, man, what am I doing wrong? Or it kind of want to make you fall into a thing of depression. Well, I shouldn't even do it. I'm not reaching anybody. But you got to think, if you're reaching 300 people who those views, I feel like are targeted views that really resonate with the person. You got 300 people who are like, dude, I'm listening. I got to find this. I'm going to listen to it. this is my bread and butter. And then I got other shows with a lot more views, but I feel like the views now are more meaningful than the 70,000 just passing by. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it is about the numbers, man. Just know that all it takes is just reaching one person and changing that life and inspiring that person. I think Tupac said they asked him if he would change the world or something like that, and he said, "I may not change the world, but I'm going to inspire the mind that will." You know what I'm saying? So, and that's real. He knew that, it was bigger than him. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to know that our platform, that our message, that our life is bigger than us.
Well, that's true. And before we go, again, so the listeners, where can they find your social media and your music again?
Yep. Everything is linked at TruthSeekah.com, Truth, SEEKAH.com. I'm on all social media platforms, YouTube, all that cool stuff. Check me out.
All right, man. I want to thank you for your time and for your word. I got a lot of ideas, man. So hopefully we connect again. You can help me out so I can get better at this, and just we can.
You're doing a good job. I enjoyed it, man. Asking good questions, and it's fun, man. So anytime, let me know, brother. Appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Sure, man. Thank you. You be blessed, and you have a good day, man.
You too, brother. Peace.